Yes, my name is Sam, and I have one son that I had back. We found out that we were pregnant when he was 14 months old and also had a miscarriage. And we weren't planning on getting pregnant, it just kind of happened. But then after that miscarriage, I like really had it in my heart that I wanted to have another child. So I started on that journey of natural fertility. All along the way, I was also dealing with not bladder pain, but more, I would say, urgency and frequency. So through my postpartum, I was drinking pretty much every day, trying to boost my milk supply, drinking a lot of spinach and strawberry smoothies with almond milk. And I was drinking raw cacao in between meals and having sweet potato fries at dinner. And so I was eating very high oxalate foods. And I really believe that was a huge contributor, along with the fact that I did have a pretty long pushing phase with my son, probably pushed for like 3 hours, did like an all natural home birth. And I think just a combination of a little bit of that pelvic floor dysfunction from postpartum and then all the oxalates I was taking in contributed to just that nagging feeling of always feeling like I had to urinate, even though I really didn't. So those are my main symptoms that I was experiencing, but also, like I said, along the way, really wanting to get pregnant again. And so thankfully, the journey wasn't that long. Probably it took us about 7, 8 attempts, but it wasn't until I started working with you, Dr. Mandy, and a couple months in of like really dialing in and understanding how oxalates were affecting me, dialing in, and looking at my hair mineral analysis and how I had copper toxicity. I was low in iodine. My tests came back that I still had mold in my system, which I knew about the mold, but I didn't realize it was still a factor. And also glyphosate. So we just added in some binders, chlorella, zeolite. I'm actually still taking chlorella because it's safe to take through pregnancy as a natural binder. And of course, it has so many micronutrients in it. So, and then that combined with going low oxalate and doing pelvic floor therapy, I have felt relief in some of my symptoms. Definitely not at a zero yet, but considering I'm pregnant and I already have added pressure on my bladder and all of the hormones and all of the things, I'm really not feeling any increase in symptoms. So that's been a huge godsend. And then some things along the way that really helped me too were adding in the glutathione spray that you recommended, evening primrose oil. So I think just dialing in a few things, I just needed a few tweaks and to really clear out the toxins I had. And then you also had said, well, what about your husband? Have you ever had his semen tested? And I hadn't thought about doing that yet because we've been trying for less than a year. But based on your recommendation, we did have it tested and then found that he had leukocytes in his semen, which is like a prostate infection essentially. And he did a month of antibiotics, and it was like that next month that we got pregnant. So it was just kind of a combination of working on both of ourselves and our fertility, and just, of course, the right timing that everything fell into place. And so now I'm into my 6 month of pregnancy. So I am 33. I'm about to turn 34 this month. So I have been huge. Like my history is pretty vast with chronic and autoimmune disorders and disease, dealing with like Lyme disease, breast implant illness, mold toxicity. And so Bell's palsy, which I had twice since my early 20s, I've been huge into functional medicine, biohacking, doing anything and everything. Like I've done bee venom therapy, I do coffee enemas, like the IV drips, all the things. I will try it, the fasting. And so I've been doing a lot of this functional health medicine stuff for a really long time. So when I wasn't getting pregnant right away, I was really frustrated and not understanding why. And I think just putting added pressure onto myself, thinking I'm eating a pristine diet. Again, at the time, not realizing all of the quote unquote superfoods I was eating were actually slowly poisoning me with the oxalates. But it really wasn't until doing the personalized testing. So I hadn't done any personalized testing besides my thyroid in a really long time. It's been maybe 5, 6 years. So doing the tests with you, Dr. Mandy, I really believe that that is what helped move the needle. Because, of course, I can just throw anything at myself with all of the different biohacks and the fasting and the superfoods and supplements. But if I don't know what's happening in my own body, then I'm going to have no idea what I really need to do to balance out everything and optimize everything. And then, of course, looking at the toxins was huge too. So I really believe that it was just clearing out the residual glyphosate and mold, which another thing is we moved the first time I was pregnant, we lived in the city. We now live in the country in farmland. Like I'm surrounded by farms. And so I think a lot of people don't realize that glyphosate is really hard on your fertility. And that's something that was not even on my radar until we did that glyphosate test. And I'm thinking, I don't eat wheat, I eat all organic. Our water is completely reverse osmosis and filtered. So where is this glyphosate coming from? But I think it's just in the water runoff from our well water, in the air. We breathe it in on our walks. Like I'm just surrounded by farmland. So I think that's something too that really dialing in and detoxing that in particular made a huge difference. Like I got glycine and fulvic acid, humic acid, all of those things to specifically get rid of the glyphosate. And I think that along with those personalized tests, that's what really moved the needle for me. And Makaru, ashwagandha, he was taking like a multivitamin. Basically, he didn't even know what he was taking. I would just say, here's your pills, and he would take them with dinner. And so he's a trooper. He is under a lot of high stress. So I think that that probably impacts things. And along with the glyphosate, but he does eat a fairly clean diet because he just eats whatever I feed him, and I only buy whole foods in the house. So I think it was just a combination of filling in those micronutrients for him and then optimizing his sperm quality through those different supplements, along with, of course, getting rid of the sperm infection. And so that took probably about 6 months, I would say, that we really worked on dialing in all of his supplements. And then, of course, the last thing was the antibiotics when we found the leukocytes. And of course, that I know made a huge difference too. Still, I was literally doing everything. Like I went all in on the protocol. And like I said, I already was living a pretty healthy lifestyle. So, like the red light therapy, walking 2 to 3 miles a day, getting sunshine and grounding, drinking mineralized water, and like really prioritizing my minerals in general, and then already eating all organic, locally produced food was something I was already doing. So it was like the lifestyle was already there. It was just the tweaking that I needed. I also added in the last month a fertility herbal tonic by Milk Moon. And I believe, I mean, that along with that month, I had added in the evening primrose oil that you recommended, which I had not been doing prior. And I think that both of those things, along with the fact that I was finally tracking my temperature every morning and checking ovulation and really dialing in, okay, when is my actual day of ovulation? I think that in the beginning, I was just missing the mark there and just going off the apps, but really not in tune with my body. So it was really doing those internal checks myself to understand what day I was actually ovulating, along with everything else that I was already doing. I think that really made the difference. And I was starting to get to the point where I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't going to happen. And it was also kind of finally that month that I like just released pressure on myself. And I think that just releasing the mental pressure also helped. So it's just a combination. It was like finally I found that sweet spot of everything that we were adding in and doing in the protocol. And then the iodine drops as well. I didn't realize that low iodine, which I had, contributed with was a factor with low fertility. So I think adding that in also made a huge difference. I'm taking D-mannose, 1 scoop every night, just as preventative for UTIs. And then I'm also actually doing the probiotic suppositories still. Seed recently came out with one, a company that's really well known for their internal, like oral probiotics. I'm taking the vaginal one that they just came out with because it has a lot of different strains of the cryptis something. I know that one's really important.
Not Lactobacillus crispus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So it has a couple different variations of the strains of that. So I'm those are the two things I'm doing for my bladder health, along with I'm still seeing a pelvic floor therapist, just to ensure that everything's where it needs to be. And I'll also start seeing a chiropractor in a couple of weeks, my third trimester, because I actually plan on doing another home birth again. I initially wasn't going to, but I changed my mind. And so I want everything to be in tip top shape. And then I'm actually still doing like twice a week, just taking CQ10. And then I'm also, because I actually want to have a third. So I plan on, wanting to keep my eggs as healthy as possible, even during the pregnancy, along with vitamin B9. And then, of course, my prenatal. And then I'm also doing an ALA supplement, specifically like a higher dose, and the low dose aspirin, like the 81 milligram aspirin, a couple times a week. So those are the things I'm doing just to keep inflammation down. I'm doing cod liver oil. And then, of course, just eating like a really high protein diet. So I've really overemphasized in my first pregnancy. I think it was more carb heavy, even though it was like the good carbs, I was still just eating too many carbs. So now really emphasizing very high quality like Greek yogurt and cottage cheese, and of course locally sourced meat. And I feel good. I mean, I still have some of that nausea, but that along with adding in electrolytes every day and minerals. And then my husband, he is still taking CQ10 and things like shilajit, ashwagandha, maca root, because again, we do want to get pregnant after this one. So just continuing to keep our sperm and egg quality up throughout this time period as well. I have low grade nausea, but not anything nears what I had with my son. Same nausea through the whole 9 months with him up until I gave birth, and then it all disappeared. But it's still there, but I feel so much more in tune with my body. And I don't have the crazy food aversions like I did with him. I'm still able to maintain pretty much my normal diet again after getting through the first trimester. And that feels really good. And overall, I'm also strength training. I'm still walking every day. I feel just a lot stronger during this pregnancy, which feels incredible, knowing that that's really going to set me up for a successful postpartum. And then knowing that I want to try and get pregnant again. So I'm really just putting everything into nourishing my body as much as possible right now. And yeah, feeling amazing. And I think that all of the tweaks that we made and just understanding how my biology specifically works and what I need to tweak from those results made a world of difference for me. And so that's information I can take and really apply lifelong. So I'm really thankful for all that information that you were able to provide.